Welcome back to my channel, Rich Girls and Boys. As always, I'm your host, Katie Tassan, and today we are partnering with Vin Social for a special branded edition of the Money with Katie show. We're speaking with their founder and CEO, Sara, who is an entrepreneur and a wine whiz. So we're going to be chatting about her journey to bring her business to life, the powerful community that her platform is building, and the positive impact that Vin Social fosters for its community. Sara, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Katie. It's great to be here.
To start out today, as a fellow founder of a woman-owned business, I'd love to learn a little bit more about your journey of founding your business. I know you're a wine expert. You have this impressive list of certifications on the subject. So what was the spark between business and pleasure, so to speak, that really drove you to create Vin Social? I'd love if you could walk us through the story from idea to implementation.
Yeah, so I actually had a former business-oriented career in the fashion industry for a decade, but really, I'm a creative, right? I started taking recreational culinary classes, which led to recreational wine classes. And I was just older and wiser and looking for something that I could really make an impact in. So wine also seemed like a really kind of interesting, wide open space where I saw not a lot of women doing interesting things and not a lot of innovation. So I went back to school and I went to quote wine school. But through that experience, I just saw a lot of opportunity to take wine education and modernize it, making it a little less formal, less stuffy, less academic, and tailoring it to people like me, sort of these younger up and coming, wine drinking generation, and making it fun, inclusive, really rooted in storytelling. So that was kind of how it all began.
Super enriching. And it's really impressive that the business has been growing and thriving for 10 years. So focusing on that business side of it all, I'm sure your business model has evolved over time. How do you, as the business owner, know what needs to change versus what makes sense to keep the same or to really keep consistent with over time?
I've been wildly fortunate that I've had amazing mentors and advisors and just a really rich network. And one of the best pieces of advice I got early on was really to make sure that whatever you're creating has a very defined why behind it. And that led to creating a brand. And so really the primary asset and equity that I put the most time, resources, financial and time into is creating the brand of Vin Social. And what does that mean? And so I think as a founder, it's really about having that guiding force, but then also having the ability to not waste a lot of time on something that isn't going to work because you thought that's how it was needed to be, and being able to be intuitive and resilient and nimble enough to, when something is working, to be able to double down and grow it and see that through to, something successful, hopefully, and profitable ultimately, right, Katie? We are talking about money.
Yeah. Ultimately, profit does matter. That's right. So with creating this space that is really centered, I think, around entertainment that is educational and also wanting to be a gathering place for like-minded individuals, there aren't a ton of spaces like that come to mind for me. So I'm curious, who is your core audience? What else do you hope to achieve with that community and with that type of business model?
I think it's been organic in the way that we've identified who resonates with Vin Social. And I think a lot of it has to do with the extension of my network and just others that were I'm just ambitious, driven, love to learn. And I think wine is a subject that appeals to people who like to learn. And it's very layered. There's history, there's science, there's art, there's culinary, right? So I think that the subject of wine just in general attracts that type of person. So our core customer, I would say, mainly looks like high achieving women. There's a lot of creators, makers. I love to work with those that also are inspired to want to make an impact. Right? Those that want to, I would say, do well while doing good, right? And so really Vin Social is about a place to learn and be entertained. And we try to do that in a way that feels really inclusive, really insightful and intelligent, but also fun and not too overly serious.
Yeah, you mentioned your network and the importance of network. So when we think about entrepreneurs, founders, really anyone that wants to grow in any given industry, usually they're going to need a reputable and dependable network to lean on for support and people they can ask questions to. So that it seems like you're trying to provide this unique space that can do that. How do you think about and define the value that your business is bringing?
Well, I think the main value that Vin Social brings is in this idea of community, right? And we are really an experiential events company at the end of the day, right? That brings people together, experts, makers, where it's a winemaker, it's an expert on AI, right? And I guess from a network perspective, I think it's important to attract diverse voices, right? It's why wine has been an industry that has not done a great job of being inclusive and really attracting diverse consumer bases. And how are we educating consumers so that they know that there's a difference between wine made by a huge corporate conglomerate that's sort of conceived in a marketing department versus a bottle of wine that is made by a farmer who's protecting and preserving this beautiful piece of land, farming biodynamically, making this wine with a lot of intention and integrity, and supporting that with your dollars, because it really does matter.
No, I love it. So before we go, we thought it'd be kind of fun to spin through a few little questions about business, wine, everything in between.
Sure.
It's our For the Vin lightning round.
For the Vin, I love it.
See what we did there? Yeah.
I like
Okay.
it.
So are you ready?
Yes.
Great, let's go. So have there been any opinions or advice that you actually didn't let sway you?
Yes. I was raising some investment capital for Vin Social in 2021. We were growing really, really fast. And, when you're raising capital and you're pitching investors, you're constantly getting feedback from them, right? And one thing that I kept hearing was like, you should you should build this technology platform. And I realized that's not me. I'm not a technical person. I'm a creative, right? So I'll leave that to someone else. So again, I think it just goes back to really knowing who you are, knowing your strengths, what you bring to the business, and surrounding yourself with people that are way better at you at the other things.
Amazing. All right, my last question is actually about wine. So what would be your lesser known recommendation for a wine lover in the audience who might want to try something else?
I would say for anyone that likes those real kind of like rich, bold, bodacious kind of prisoner-esque wines, to go to Spain. I love to turn people on to high quality, like Reserva level, Grand Reserva level Rioja. This is Tempranillo from Spain. And a lot of times you can find them really well aged. It might be 7, 8, 10 years old. Still has all that oaky goodness, delivers a lot of complexity and very serious, but I think way over delivers from a cost to cost comparison. So that's one example of like 105 I could give you.
Sara, thank you so much for joining us today. This was a really great chat. I really appreciate you sharing both business savvy and journey, and also more about wine as well. Of course, everyone should go check out Vin Social to learn more about the business meets lifestyle community and the quote, world's greatest club of makers and risk takers.